What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the NeoVintage podcast. I am Jabril, and I am with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing well.
And we finally got the episode we've all been waiting for. It's the next-gen episode. We finally got our consoles. We have unboxings up. Go check those out. And so it's going to be formatted a little different this time, you guys. We're not going to start with what we've been playing because we all know what we've been playing. We're going to go talk about all the console stuff. We're not going to have a loose topic. We're going to give you guys our full thoughts, top to bottom, what we think about the hardware, what do we think about the games, and our general experience. And it's going to be a wild ride, and we're going to try to make some decent time, but no promises, guys. This might be the longest show. Might be not a super long show. I don't know. But, Steve, how have you felt about this week, first off, before we get into it?
I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, behind me, you can't see me right now, but when you edit this video, I got my boxes here, my nice PS5 box and my Xbox Series Xbox. My PS5 box is white because I did get the disc version. Yours is all black. Right?
Yep.
Nice. At least we have them both. So it's fantastic. Magically, I was able, I pre-ordered both systems. Both systems, arrived to me on launch day, which is fantastic. And I understand that's not the case for everybody. I did get I lucky. I'm just lucky. No really other words to say. But it's exciting. This is like Christmas for me. It's like Christmas beyond Christmas came early for me, and I'm so happy with it.
Yeah, we're the lucky ones of the lucky ones because, I mean, getting these consoles is one thing, a whole ordeal, and I feel very bad for a lot of the people just fiending to get a PS5, but they are nowhere to be found. But then on top of that, again, you got yours both on launch day. I got my Xbox and PlayStation on the exact same day, so both on Thursday. Which, do you know how hard it is to work at home from your computer, but also be looking out of the window waiting for these trucks, and then the moment these consoles come to do an unboxing and expect to go back to work? Yeah, please. Sorry to my boss ahead of time, but no, that working thing was dead.
Yeah, I was at work, and because I don't work from home, I was every 2 minutes tracking because I ship them to my parents' house. So I was like, I called my mom nice and early. I was like, hey, keep an eye out. I don't think you'll have to sign, but just porch thieves right now. They knew what day it was. So
definitely.
My parents' neighborhood is nice, and obviously so. As soon as I got the notification has arrived, I was done. I was like a zombie at work. I was just every 10 minutes looking at the clock. I'm like, I'm trying to get home, man.
Yeah, I intercepted the guys because I was like, I'm not running the risk where it's like, oh, you weren't here to sign for it. No, I don't know what you guys are doing. So
yeah,
I saw them pull up. I'm waiting at the top of the stairs. Hand it here, buddy. And I got it all. It was amazing. And I mean, these absolute monolith of units, probably the biggest consoles I've had in my collection. I mean, the Xbox is not too bad, but that PlayStation is like, holy crap. So when I unbox that thing, that thing's massive. So we're going to break this show into two halves. It's going to be the PS5 side, and then we're going to get into the Series X afterwards. So first we're going to talk about strictly hardware. So now that you've gotten your hands on the console, we didn't get preview units or anything like that. So the day that we unboxed it was the first time we ever got our hands on it, and the first time I ever saw them in person. I wouldn't say this. I don't know if it's the same for you.
Yeah, these are the first time I saw them hands-on.
So, hardware. Just the hardware. What you think?
So should I start with Xbox, PlayStation?
PlayStation.
Oh, PlayStation, sorry. Alright, so, yep. So, my initial reactions, the unboxing video is up, so you guys can check it out. It's like 4 minutes. The box is huge. The box is heavy. So, I did get mine's reversed. So, I was comparing it, obviously, to the Xbox One. Man, when I'm taking all the little pamphlets out, got my DualSense, and I'm like, cool, HDMI's on that, awesome. Then you pull out this giant tower. I was like, it was so heavy. So hardware-wise, I was like, wow, this is heavy. And I've always been back and forth on the design, where at first I was like, loved it, and then I was like, this does look like a weird Photoshop. Like, I think you were the first person I heard say it, and then people kind of ran with it, where it looks like, back then, if you look in 2006, if you looked up PlayStation 7, and this is something you would, this is
looks like a mock-up from 2006.
Exactly, or something you would see on a TV show, GameSphere from Drake and Josh, and it's all those kind of things where it brought me back to. Once I opened it and got my hands on it, I kind of fell in love with it again. I was like, you know what? This is an awkward design. It's weird. It does kind of look like Seto Kaiba standing up with his big white jacket from Yu-Gi-Oh! but I was like, I kind of vibe with this. I was like, I kind of like this. You know, it looks a little weird because I in my stand I have to put it horizontally.
I think a lot of people are gonna have to.
Yeah, it looks a little weird. I think it does look better standing up, comparing it to like the box that shows it standing up. But yeah, it's what a sleek, clean design. I do like that it's not white where it's gonna like yellow out. You know, I don't think it will, because it's more like a soft white. It's a matte finish white, so it's not something like the gloss is gonna eat away. So it's
just don't blow cigarette smoke onto it.
Yeah, guys, don't plug vapes under your systems to I don't know, for the views, because you know, that's weird. But you know, quick and easy setup. The hardware, you know, the stand, and this is a critique everyone's had. So the stand, to go put it, you know, horizontally, on the back there's the triangle, cross, circle, square, and you have to put the hooks on the two squares. I wish it clicked. I wish there was a significant like sound that, you know, the stand is comfortably there, because it kind of just slides in and it's stable, but we're very techie guys. We're very kind of built shelves. You like to hear that significant like click, clunk, something to know that it's in there correctly. It kind of just slid in, and I was like, oof. And I took it back out and I put it back in. I'm like, yeah, no, that's it. It's in there. No wobbling. So I was just super impressed with the hardware. You know, it feels sturdy. It feels good. It looks great. I'm glad that the gloss is on the inside, you know, the black section, because fingerprints and scratches. So it's, you know, amazing. But my goodness, it's literally, if you see the unboxing video, it's like the size of my torso almost. And I'm a short guy. I'm like 5'9" or something like that. You're a little bit taller. But this is pretty much my torso, like from neck to, you know, my belt line. That's the system, and it's just so huge. So what were your impressions? What did you think of the hardware when you got your hands on it?
Yeah, so I've this entire past like week and a half or so, I've been watching like non-stop unboxings just to get myself hyped up and excited, see what people were doing, see what people's, you know, thoughts on the consoles were. Because again, I wasn't able to get an early unit for it, and I hadn't even seen this thing. Like in previous generations, you could go to like a Best Buy, a GameStop, and see them on display, and it's cool. But yeah, no, these things weren't anywhere. So getting my hands on it, I mean, I knew the specs, I knew this thing was big, but ultimately nothing will beat out when you actually get it in your hands. And I put it on my stand, and me and my girlfriend are just looking at it, and both of us kind of had the same reaction, like, what the hell is that? Like, it's so, like, I everybody knows it's big. We all know that. But holy crap, like every morning now I wake up and I go over there and I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's so big. It's literally taking the entirety of the top of the stand that I have it on. There is barely an inch clearance on either side. It's about as big as I got right now. So yeah, I have to have the controllers on like a lower level below it, which is fine. But yeah, man, this thing is like serious business. I don't love the stand, I'm not gonna lie to you. I have to have it, you know, horizontally as well, because I would prefer to have it vertically. I think it looks really, really nice vertically. But the only thing that kind of fits on it is the Xbox. But the problem is I would like that kind of like 3 to 4 inches clearance for like ventilation. And correct, neither of them really have that. The PlayStation, I needed 3 inches probably extra to even have it vertically. So yeah, having it that way was kind of a non-negotiable, unfortunately for me. But having it sideways, yeah. At first, I didn't know the symbol thing, so I'm like looking. I'm like, where the hell do I put this? Like, and I'm like, okay, PlayStation symbol goes up on the top. All right, fine. Because I was like, which side is up? And then I'm like, okay, which side do I put how do I put this stand on? And I was like, I know it snaps into the back, and I see these symbols. I'm like, I'm assuming it goes somewhere on these symbols. But eventually, I was able to figure that out. But yeah, no, it's a really, really solid build. I love the LEDs coming in from the inside when you turn it on. Yeah. That it's just such a beautiful look. And I did learn some really interesting things about the hardware too that is new to me that I'm imagining maybe some people already knew. If I turn on the PlayStation 5, it not only turns on my TV for me, but it also switches to the HDMI slot that it's in. So if I was last playing the Xbox, it's going to be on HDMI 2. If I turn on the PlayStation, it's going to switch to HDMI 1 automatically for me. So that's new to me.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And I did notice that too. The only other system, so I have most of my main systems hooked up to the same TV, and my Switch does that. Usually if I dock it, it'll turn the TV on, switch to HDMI. My PS4 never did that. I think I may have turned that off. I don't know if that's a PS4 Pro feature or something like that. I don't remember. Oh, because it also works sometimes in reverse, where if you switch to that HDMI, it'll auto turn your console on. You might want to test that. I don't know if it does that for these ones.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
because I know that's what used to happen with my PS4 Pro, and that's what I had to turn it off for. I didn't notice that with my Xbox. Again, it's called like HDMI something. There is a name for it, so it is a nifty like little trick, especially if you're like sitting back on the couch and you have the controls and you don't have to go do it. Just hit the power button or the PlayStation button and the control, and you're good to go.
Yeah, it broke my muscle memory because, again, I'm always used to you press the PS button or the Xbox button or whatever and then switch the HDMI over, and then I have to press exit to get the little menu thing down, and then I sit back and then I play. But this generation is just changing all things about the just getting rid of load screens. Like, my body's not prepared for this. Mm-hmm. Like, so often, again, I grab my phone and I'm just still in the game. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Like, it's insane.
Yep.
And so one thing before we start getting into the games, we need to mention this, the fans on this thing. So I've pushed these consoles about as hard as I could, running the most demanding games that I had in my library. On the Xbox, and we're going to have an Xbox section, so I won't go deep into this. I tried the quick resume. I threw a whole bunch of games at it, and the fans barely make a sound. Like, barely. Like, the most you can hear is if you put your ear to it, you can hear like a hum, like it's on. Yeah. But the moment you step more than like a foot away, it's silent. There's just absolutely nothing. You put your hand there, the air is pushing out and stuff like that. But the fan design is just incredible. So your experience has been the same, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so yeah, the system is silent. It's so quiet. And I did the same where I was like testing it out, jumping in and out of, this doesn't have a quick zoom, but jumping in and out of like the store, which we'll get into that in the whole UI in a minute. It's quiet. It's quiet. The only time I've heard this system, and again, it has to be, I have a disk drive. So when I put a disk in to install, you hear the disk spinning, obviously. But it's not like before. It's not like where the whole system's like just, it's really only during the copying phase, which is like super fast now. So it doesn't take long. Yeah, the system's quiet. I did the same, kind of ran my hand across it to make sure, because now it's one shelf that has both my systems. And I wanted to make sure that, the PlayStation's not going to just blast air into the bottom of my Xbox. So, and it's not. It's such a low, like, frequency of a fan. And, like, I don't hear it spinning. Yeah, if I get up to it, you hear that, the slight hum. But it's quiet. It's very, very quiet. And it's fantastic. So, yeah, I've had that same experience.
Yeah, and again, I will say, like, yeah, the fan technology is phenomenal and stuff like that. I'm just curious to see how this all plays out when we fully get the real deep PS5 games that are absolute, like, juggernauts. That's what I'm curious to see, how it works with that. I'm assuming, again, the fan tech is the fan tech, so it's spinning faster or working overtime or whatever it has to do for these super powerful games. I don't think it's going to actually really change that much, but I am curious to see. A lot of people are like, oh my god, these consoles are doing A, B, and C, and they're phenomenal consoles. But it is important to note that these are launch games and a lot of last-gen games. So the load times and stuff like that, your mileage may vary. Like, once, Horizon 2 comes out and God of War Ragnarok and stuff like that, the experience might change a little bit. We might start seeing a little bit longer load times because, again, we're talking about, like, 4K 120 games. Like, these consoles can only do so much. So that's what I am really curious to see how future-proofed some of this tech is, and only time will tell for that. But I guess we can transition now into the UI specifically. We both got our hands deeply into the UI, got to see how it looks, how it actually works in a gaming experience. What's your experience been with that?
So initially, obviously, your muscle memory, we've been using the same PlayStation UI for 7 years now, and I was so lost. I could not find how to do anything in the PlayStation 5 UI, and I never really watched like walkthroughs on like how to do it because the actual UI embargo was like very close to like when the systems were launching.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find how to get into a store. I wasn't sure how to install a game correctly because I was like, well, I don't know what needs to update. I didn't know anything. So it took me a minute. I was like, I don't know if I like this. It looked very busy. I wasn't sure. I somehow ended up keep going into the PlayStation Store, and then I want to say maybe like 10 minutes, it kind of clicked where I saw what it was. I saw what it was supposed to do. I didn't use any PlayStation 4 wire transfer. I just kind of signed in. I was like, I'll reinstall whatever I need to reinstall.
Yeah, me too.
So I put it, I put Miles in to install first. Obviously, I had a disk base, so I had to put the disk in. That's rolling. I'm like, okay, cool. We're rolling now. I started figuring out how to get in and out of like the store. And then I got into the settings, figured it out, and then I realized I'm like, man, this is super fast. I realized how fast I was doing these things, and I'm like, this is faster than like some of the stuff on like Steam when I'm trying to go back and forth out of wishlist and marketplace and then back to my library, checking on downloads. I'm like, wow, this is getting fast. Okay, I realized how snappy it was, where I wasn't waiting at all, where it wasn't like loading indefinitely, then booting me out. Then, you know, Miles finally installed, and then his homepage, I guess, comes up, and, you know, the music's blasting, and I'm like...
They brought the music back.
I was like, wait. Now it felt next gen, because I was like, what is going on? I'm like, wait, what's going on? And, you know, then I had a slight confusion, because some reason it then booted... I went out and then went back in, and I removed the music, and I was like, what's going on? Wouldn't let me play the game. Then I found out it accidentally switched to the PS4 version, which is locked for me because I don't have that version. Then quick button, you hit options, you hit switch to PS5, and then music came back, and I was like, all right. So, which is a weird thing, and it makes sense now because we were always curious for like Destiny players, how do you go back and play with people on Destiny PS4? You hit options, and I guess there's a button. I don't know if you install it twice or if it's like a license issue, because I know you can play Miles forward. Like if you got the PS4 version, then you get a PS5. I guess you can swap between the two for trophies and stuff. But it doesn't work the other way. I didn't get a free version of the PS4 Miles. So it's small little things like that, which I wish we had a kind of explanation or more of a UI walkthrough officially from Sony. And I'm sure we'll get one, obviously, like down the line, because they always do them super late. So it's interesting. So I like the UI now. I do think there's some misplacements, and it definitely needs an update for just some more consumer friendly and ease. But what a giant step! Just the quickness of it, the fact that the PlayStation Store is integrated into the system and the UI, where there is no loading. It's literally like a switch. You know, that's not even something that the Xbox has. You have to hit the marketplace, and it launches that other quote unquote app, and it runs that way. So I'm super impressed with the UI and how fast it is, how quick it is, and how game-based it is. The fact that media section, which are Netflix and all that stuff, is completely cut out. It's in its own thing. They're like, you want to play games? Here it is. You want your Netflix? It's right there. And I just love it. I love how simple and like clean they made it. A little busy sometimes, depending if you don't really know what's going on. But it's exciting because it's all starting to just kind of work for me. So what was your experience when launching this up, seeing the system?
Yeah, I mean, I really, really love the UI personally. Yeah, again, I was iffy on it at first too, because again, I've always been kind of iffy on PlayStation's UIs in general, and it's not like I like Xbox's UIs anymore. Pretty much ever since like that kind of like PS3 generation, I've just not really I actually liked the cross media bar personally. Just that kind of continuity between the PS3 and the PSP, I really, really enjoyed. And then kind of since then, I've kind of been off on that. But this one, I'm actually really, really, really high on. It's snappy, it's clean, I enjoy it. I like the separation between games and media and stuff like that. Again, the storefront is really, really impressive stuff. And again, it's kind of crazy how they went from one of my least favorite game storefronts to now pretty easily one of my favorites. Again, it's just how snappy it is. I already made a purchase on the store because I have to get all my games digitally now, obviously, because I don't have the disc drive, not by choice, but yeah, so I bought Miles that way, and it was, again, literally, I just hovered over the little game purchase area, chose Miles. They have a nice clean PS5 section, PS4 section, free to play. Like they separate everything really, really well. And again, it's early in the generation, so finding games is relatively easy. We'll see how that is later down the line. And I'm just, when I use this UI, I'm just like hoping and praying that this is not something that is like bogged down by updates in the future, because I know that can happen where it can be super snappy at first and then update after update and thing after thing, and they add these things and it's not optimized the best, and next thing you know it's a laggy mess again. That can happen. I'm really, really hoping that doesn't happen. We have much more powerful hardware this time, and they're aware of the issues that they had during the PS4 era, so I'm sure that they're going to do everything they can to kind of avoid that happening. But yeah, as it stands right now, I'm really, really high on it. I don't love the card mechanic when you press the PS button in game and it has all your trophies and different suggestions there. I don't love it. I'd prefer if that can just bring me to the kind of like menu bars there, and I could kind of clean that up. And I know to some degree it's customizable, and I'm imagining over time that's going to become more and more customizable. So I'm looking forward to a point where I can kind of like shift that to the side, because that doesn't. I'm not a trophy guy. I know a lot of people are trophy people, and so I would love for a way that like people who are really like obsessed with trophies can like prioritize that and show that first. But other people who like, I would probably go to like my network settings or my friends list way before I'd ever go check out any trophy stuff, that you can kind of play around with that and prioritize that.
Yeah, I just forgot to mention that card. When you push the PlayStation button once, which I wish it was more a button. I hate that the button's kind of gone. It's like just a PlayStation symbol. And again, muscle memory stuff that I'll get used to it quick. Yeah, those cards are very like in your face, and then all the way on the bottom it's the menu. So I do wish you could kind of edit it a little bit, because I usually do trophy hunting for some games, but sometimes if I just want to quickly go see a download status, I don't want all this. Because to me, when I was playing Astrobot, it was like I went to go just see the download status of something else, and it was like 70%, you're 70%, you're 70%, and I'm like, whoa, yeah, I haven't even played the game all the way yet. I understand I'm not done with it, and it's just like showing me these pictures and this percentage bar. I'm like, whoa, I just kind of wanted to see where my download was, not just be hit over the head with progression. And yeah, I get it. Yeah, if I was super trophy hunting at that moment, it would have been easy to try to knock those out. But I do wish maybe you can just even change the size of them, or flip it. Have the cards on the bottom and the media bar come in the middle would be nice. And things that will probably be optional later on, or maybe optional now. I just haven't found to edit it. But it is interesting. I do think it's a little overwhelming when it's just like all at you at once.
Okay, so now we can kind of segue into the last part of the hardware discussion, which will segue really good into the games discussion, which is we finally get to play with the DualSense actually in game to see what this thing is really capable of. Again, we have these controllers, sometime before the consoles. You could hook it up into, Steam, and you could actually play with it. But again, these are not games that are designed to be played with a DualSense, so they don't take advantage of all that different tech. Mm-hmm. So now we felt the haptic feedback, we felt the trigger resistance, and with the new Dolby Atmos, I don't know, they're doing all some crazy stuff with the audio. We can try out the 3D audio thing. So generally speaking, with the DualSense controller, what do you think of it? How does it feel? And what do you think of all the new tech that they added?
Yeah, so this is pretty revolutionary, I'll be honest. This is the first time it's been such a major change in control since maybe adding dual sticks. When PlayStation added DualShock and they added the two sticks, it's on the verge to me where it's that revolutionary, where you could move the camera and move a character at the same time. And obviously the biggest example we have for this is when you play Astrobot, and they do that big test feature, which is how I'm gonna show everybody what this control can do, is that little control test right before you play it. And when they start messing with the triggers, and people always said it like, yeah, there's like a resistance and it fights back, but there's no words to describe. And this must have been annoying for PR to try to show off the DualSense, because you really can't put into words what this control is doing to you while you're using it until you're hands on. When you feel the way the rumbles are feeling, when you feel later when you play the Astrobot, when you feel the difference when he's running on like a concrete or a metal section to walking on sand, you feel the pitter patters, more to the left, more to the right, more in the center, the way the rumbles work and all that stuff. The speaker is fine, and that's stuff we saw on the PlayStation 4. But other little, the triggers are the big ones for me. Is our L1 and R1 are nice. They're clicky. They're where they need to be. Those back triggers, when it almost threw me so off, and I had the biggest grin when I went to go push it in that initial test, and it stops you, and it's like, now push it, and for a second it felt like it broke in my brain. I was like, did I just break the control? Because it's like it stopped you, and then it's like, no, push it, and you like click, and then like a gear changing, and I'm like, whoa, and I literally I stopped, and I was like, wait a minute, and the fact that it can control two different, and it's not even like, oh, it can just stop halfway. Like on SCUF controls, we've seen this before where it stops like halfway, and it wasn't that. It's like literally like later when you're doing like a jetpack thing, and then you can control the intensity of it. You can feel like again, I keep using Astrobot because it's the biggest awesome tech demo / game. When you're like doing the springing, you can feel it kind of coming back at you, and like you like for a second you feel your hand like tremble because it's fighting back to go back up, and that's just something so fantastic. Where I felt like a kid. I felt like a kid again. I felt like a kid playing with a brand new toy that could, I remember the first time I was able to put a bullet in a toy Mega Man Buster and can fire it, and that was like the craziest thing to me. It brought me back to that feeling where I'm like, this is fantastic. And then later on when we talk about the Xbox, Xbox has kept it simple and the same, and they are taking big chances with this. And I'm surprised that the DualSense isn't even more than it is, because literally it only raised about $5 to $10 more than the DualShock 4. You got to remember, Nintendo was charging like $90 for their Pro Control, and it had none of this tech in it. It didn't have the mic, it didn't have the all the haptic feedbacks and stuff. So it's fantastic, and I can't wait. No game will ever use all of them the way the Astrobots doing, but I can't wait until we get like Horizon and doing the crossbows and stuff like that. You're gonna start feeling that tension. We won't get everything at once, and I don't think we need everything at once. But having certain games just have that extra feature is really gonna bring it and kind of help it stand out, because that's when you're gonna start feeling like a next gen control, and it's fantastic. So you got to finally test it out. What did you think?
Yeah, I think, and again, I agree with you. It's very hard to kind of summarize what this controller is actually doing. And if I had to summarize it in one word, the best thing I could say is texture. Everything has texture now. It is really, really impressive. Again, I feel like this is the evolution of what maybe Nintendo was trying to tap into with some of those Joy-Con, HD rumble with the Ice Cube thing. When I felt like the little pitter patter of the Astro with the holding the controller, I was like, okay, so this is the next level from that, where there's just a real depth and texture to everything it does, and the resistance is crazy. And I could say pretty definitively, using both controllers at this point for the Xbox and the PlayStation, is I feel like they've done a fantastic job of closing the gap. And I was never somebody who hated the DualShock 4. And I know some people really, really like it, but I did feel that there was kind of a noticeable gap in terms of what the Switch Pro controller felt like actually in-game, what the Xbox controller felt like in-game, and then the PlayStation controller. There was a bit of a gap there where I just felt like these controllers had a real heft and weight to them that I really, really liked, way more than I liked the DualShock 4. But this time with the DualSense, I feel like they've really closed the gap, and it's really coming down to preference now. Like, I really don't feel this major, like, ugh, I wish I could use this controller on this console. No, I honestly would have no problem using the DualSense on any other controllers, and I feel like it's right up there with them, in my opinion. Again, there is the Elite controller that Xbox has that is kind of a league in its own, and I'm not talking about that. Just, base controllers for the units, I think it is phenomenal. I think it's probably one of their best, if not definitively their best controller. As someone who really, really loves the Xbox controller, I love the added heft to it. That's something that's very positive for me. The buttons feel great. The triggers are absolutely insane. And I'm really, really positive about the DualSense controller, and I'm excited to see. I hope it's not something kind of like the back of the Vita that is just Sony kind of gives it to they give a couple tech demos and then nobody uses it. I hope it's not something like that. That is limited to the first party, but from what we see, at least so far, I know Call of Duty takes advantage of it, and so there are some third parties taking advantage of it, and I just hope they stick around for it, because if I can have that kind of tension during like Far Cry, for example, that'd be really, really dope too. Or if I can feel some kind of crazy rumble in like Immortals Phoenix Rising. And there's all these cool like third-party games that are coming that I feel like could really benefit from the added tech in the DualSense controller. So I hope that, publishers, at least the big ones, feel comfortable taking advantage of this, throughout the entire generation, not just at launch.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping too. And my immediate thought came to Cyberpunk, whether we get it this year or not. Motorcycle riding and stuff like that, feeling a different tread when you're going from like street to other textures. And
are you gonna play that on PlayStation?
I wasn't going to. I'm kind of curious what they can do with the DualSense, if anything. So because I have not pre-purchased it anywhere yet. I'm curious, like if they have a couple little sweet little details, some bleeps and clicks and noises coming from the control, because Cyberpunk's all about that aesthetic, and kind of getting a little bit of that aesthetic in your hands through the speaker and all that kind of stuff might be kind of cool. Again, I don't know yet. I'm really curious to see how they do that, and that was the first one I thought. Cause I'm like, they're pretty big. You know, they're not the biggest guys, but they obviously have a PS5 dev kit.
Oh, no doubt.
In their offices. So I'm like, I wonder if they were able to do that. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how many third parties, because that may be the factor, because like these systems are, you know, not identical, but pretty close in power. And like it's gonna come down to those little sweet little Easter eggs almost that help you decide where you want to get your games.
Yeah, and this is one of the first generations that at least I can remember where the power difference isn't really that clear yet. With the PlayStation 4 versus Xbox, and again, this was at launch, I'm speaking, that 900p thing really, you know, was rough on Microsoft, and it was kind of a clear difference between what the PS4 was doing and what the Xbox is doing. And again, they, by the end of the generation, I felt like, you know, closed the gap a lot better. But at launch, there's always been kind of clear differentials. Obviously, Nintendo plays their own thing. The Xbox versus the PS2, we knew that the Xbox was stronger, but again, it comes down to games sometimes. But the power differential is always clear. But this time, it's a lot more speculative because we all know that on paper, just on a list of different specs, the Xbox, I believe, edges out PlayStation a little bit. But that doesn't necessarily always reflect the reality of once developers actually get their hand on the unit and they actually put forward the game, the way it processes and stuff like that. And again, I'm not a super tech guy, so I don't necessarily understand how that is the case. Things can manifest differently. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see some stuff run better on the Series X, some stuff's going to run better on the PS5, depending on who's publishing it, what type of game it is, what they're asking of the hardware. So it's kind of a weird situation where now it's like, I don't really know where to play things, because I always had the thing with the PlayStation. It's like, okay, I'm going to play all the exclusives because there's plenty of them on the PlayStation, and then I'll play the third-party games on Xbox, and there we go. But this time it's going to be a little different, where it's like, where are things going to run better? I don't know. So I have no clue where I'm going to play anything, and I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, especially with Cyberpunk, because I really want to feel how that feels on a DualSense, but I already kind of had it set that I'm going to play a lot of the third-party stuff on the Xbox, because there's going to be so many exclusives on the PlayStation 5, and I want to get equal usage out of my machines. That's kind of my goal, is how can I always have something to play on each console, and if I weigh it too much in one direction, it's going to throw things off, and I can't wait for an Xbox exclusive to play my Xbox, because I'll play it once a year. So,
yeah.
So I guess that's a perfect segue. We can move on to the PS5 games that we've played. There is quite a bit for this launch lineup, a whole bunch of different stuff. We can't play everything. So you and I were both in the situation where we kind of have to choose what we were going to play. And there also are some free options also as well, and there's some obviously last gen stuff that you can play. So there's lots of stuff available. Steve, for the PS5 launch, what did you choose to play, and what have you tried out on this machine?
All right, so mainly 3 games, and so obviously Astrobots is a free, you know, and I don't want to call it a tech demo because that's a fantastic game where some things they've out Nintendo. So Astrobots Playroom, fantastic. Spider-Man Miles Morales, no surprise, obviously, is the other game. And then I got Demon's Souls.
Yes.
Demon's Soul. I always pronounce it, whatever. Demon's Souls, Blue Point's fantastic remake. So those are the 3 games I've actually launched and played on the PlayStation. I do have Bugsnax installed because it was free on PlayStation Plus. I have not launched it. I haven't decided if I want to go down that tunnel.
Well, lucky for you, I have.
Oh, great. So it is installed, and you know my older brother, so he's obviously been harassing me about that, and that's a him game if you ever.
What, Bugsnax?
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. So
without a doubt.
If you're listening, Rick, I know you want me to play Bugsnax for you. I don't know yet. Maybe he'll come over today, and I'll bite the bullet.
Yeah, and I got. Don't worry, Rick. I got you in 5 minutes. I'll talk about it.
There we go. So it's there. So, but those are the 3 games I've been playing, and so I guess I'll start with Astrobots Playroom, and my goodness, I'm pretty much like Sony fanboy, I guess if you want to call it. I mean, I bought an Xbox, guys, come on. But my goodness, what a celebration of PlayStation that Astrobots Playroom is, which I did not know. I always thought tech demo, we had 2 Astrobots Playrooms before. We had the PS4 one, then we had the VR one. So I kind of thought I knew what to expect. This is a super solid platformer with amazing collectibles. Not just dumb collectibles, not blades of grass. No, you're getting PlayStation history. Devices I've forgotten, or what do they call it? The artifacts. When you find them, and it's pretty much, it's always a PlayStation item, whether it was the iToy from PlayStation 2, the PSP internet connector, the PSP microphone, the PSP camera, the Vita's in there, and it's all celebration of PlayStation. Their highs and their lows, though, because the amount of game references that are in there, the Easter eggs, what the trophies are called, are either game titles or Easter eggs and stuff like that. The 3 PlayStation systems are in there. They even make fun of the third one being so small and grill-like. And what a fantastic platform, where as soon as someone comes over, I mean, nobody comes over, obviously we're in super lockdown, but the day anyone gets to try out the PlayStation when they come over, this is what I'm going to launch for them first. I'm not going to launch for the Miles. I'm not going to launch. I'm like, I want you guys to see this, because not only does it look fantastic and look very solid, and sometimes it looks better than some Nintendo stuff we've gotten, it's just really fun, and it's nice to be relaxing. And I don't know how far you played, but that SSD level is fantastic with the music. If you haven't tried that level, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, I have to go deeper in that.
Yeah, that's the red section, I think.
Okay.
So wait until you hear the music. There's this like steady the song's fantastic. It's just like SSD, and you're running around, and it's so good. So that game's the second game I've played the most, obviously. So the first game I've played the most, Miles Morales, and I don't know where you're gonna start with that. It's just fantastic. That game is so great in all its ways, and I'll wait before you and I can get into a bigger discussion for that. And then Demon's Souls is the least game I've played, just because I know this is a game that demands a lot of time, and so obviously trying to jump between the 2 systems, I'm like, it's not there yet. I did do the tutorial where you have to die a giant thing. Created my character, chose my class. I feel it. It's weird because they keep talking about how they stuck true to their roots, and I see it sometimes where mechanically I'm like, well, yeah, this plays like a game from 2009, but it looks fantastic, and it's kind of there purposely because they want you to experience the game they were supposed to. You're not trying to play an easier version, stuff like that. So I'm excited to get into that. So what have you been playing? What are the games that you've got to do for your launch?
Yeah, I mean, I've played a ton of stuff on this machine, and unfortunately one of them is not Demon Souls, and I really wanted one, or really wanted that game. But the problem is, with playing so much on this console, and I know how demanding that game is, and I know it's $70 with that price and how demanding it is, I just don't have the time nor patience to deal with that right now, and I won't be able to do it justice. So unfortunately, I'm like, I can't. That's unfortunately not an option for me, but I'm hoping to get to that one day, because that game looks phenomenal, and I do like those super tough games. That just can't be the only game I play, because I know I don't got the good skills for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so mainly I've been playing, obviously, Astros 2. Really impressed with that. Miles Morales, we'll come back to a discussion for that, because that's the one that elicits the most discussion.
Yeah.
About halfway through that, I just hit around the 50% mark on that. I also played Bug Snacks. So, and this game I did have some jokes for when it was announced. And again, it was always like friendly jokes. I didn't really know much about it. I was like, oh, next gen title, Bug Snacks. I think it's pretty fun. I think there's a lot of fun to be had here. It kind of comes down to like what type of games you like. I mean, if you like those kind of like exploration, catch different things, like this kind of has the Pokemon Snap effect. Like, for people who are into those type of games, especially the indie side, this is definitely gonna be for you. It looks really pretty. It has a very distinct art style, so it's not really like pushing the hardware for like ray tracing or anything like that. But yeah, it runs well, and you kind of just land on an island, and you kind of play in first person, and you use this kind of like capture device, and you either take pictures to identify different bug snacks, which are literal bugs, but they're thematically like a snack. So there was like a little strawberry fly thing, and you capture it, and then you feed it to this guy, and his body parts turn into a snack. I don't know the science behind it, guys.
All right.
But it's cute and it's fun, and yeah, I'm pretty positive on it. Again, it's not something I'm gonna play, not because it's a bad game. It's just really not for me. And when Miles is out, that's just definitely my preference personally. But I can see a lot of fun to be had. Rick, you're gonna love this game. Don't worry about that, and it's free, so beautiful.
Yeah.
If you have PlayStation Plus, so yeah, I'm positive on Bugsnax. So
even if you don't have a PlayStation 5 right now, you can redeem this on the PlayStation app or PlayStation.com. Definitely do that, because especially if you don't know when you're going to get your PS5, why not add this to your catalog?
100%. Yeah, and I think you can get some fun. And again, your mileage may vary depending on what types of games you're into. But yeah, generally I'm positive about it. I also fired up a lot of last gen stuff to see, how it runs on the new console. So the first game I went to, which was something I kind of agreed with myself, which is the first last gen game I have to play on this console, is Ghost of Tsushima. I need to. I need to see how this runs. And it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. There's nothing about it that screams last gen about it. The moment you fire this up on a PS5, this is a PS5 game, no doubt. There is not a single jagged texture in there. It's running phenomenally. And it ran phenomenally beforehand. So whatever opinion you had about it before is only going to get better on the PlayStation 5. So I'm really, really impressed. And again, this is with no major upgrades from what I understand from Sucker Punch or anything like that. This is just the game running naturally on the PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the 4K is just gorgeous. And again, I knew it ran 4K because I know people who were like playing on the PlayStation 4 Pro, I believe, kind of already got to dabble with that. But again, I'm going from a base PS4 to a PS5. So the jump for me is major.
Wow.
I didn't have a PS4 Pro. I didn't have a 1X. So I'm going from a 1S to a Series X, and I'm going from a base launch PS4 to a PS5. So you guys could only imagine the difference for me.
Yeah, that must be insane. Yeah. A small question, because I will be playing Ghost of Tsushima, because I do plan on platinum, getting the platinum in it. So I will install it probably actually after we're done recording this. The load times are literally like 10 seconds long on the PlayStation 4 Pro. What is it on PS5? Instant?
Damn near, yeah. There is a load to get into the game, and I didn't take out a timer to know if that's faster, because again, it never had long load times. But it was fairly short to get in, and then fast travel is just eviscerated. Forget about it. Yeah, I was just jumping around.
Fast travel. That's what I'm saying again. On fast travel and I think this is even the case for base PlayStation 4s. Just was, I want to say 10 seconds. Like, it was faster than me getting my phone out, opening my phone, and getting to Twitter. Like, it was faster than that. So I only imagine on PS5 where it's just there, constantly there.
Yeah, in my experience, it's basically you go to the map, you click where you want to go, it turns black, flashes a image at you, you're in the game. That's pretty much how fast it is. So it's really, really impressive stuff. And again, it's just an absolutely gorgeous game. And if you did not tell someone they don't know much about Ghost, and you're like, PS5 launch title, Ghost of Tsushima, they would never question it, 100%. It's that beautiful. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is gorgeous. I also had to, because I'm a psycho, downloaded GTA 5 because I'm like, I just want to see. Didn't see any difference other than the load times. And again, the load time is still long. Like, it's still long, but by Rockstar standards, it's much better. I still have yet to check out Red Dead, but I do want to check out that game too. But yeah, GTA 5, they cut down the load times a little bit, but once you're in game, it looks exactly the same from what I could tell. I don't think they have like even a 4K mode in that game to begin with.
Now there will be a GTA 5 upgrade / native PS5 version, correct? Am I wrong?
Yes, that's on the way.
That will be coming later. Okay, cool.
We don't have a date on that, but a proper PS5 port of GTA 5 is coming, which we would assume is probably going to be like 4K 60 or something like that.
Yeah, the frame rate's going to be nuts on that.
Yeah, again, obviously with frame rate and stuff like that. With an online game, I don't know how that works. I guess your mileage may vary depending on your Wi-Fi. But yeah, GTA 5, it's just still GTA 5. And then the last thing was Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I didn't play a ton of this. My girlfriend did, because I get motion sick really easily. But from what I could tell, it looks phenomenal. Looks beautiful. Never had much of an issues with visuals or load times or anything like that. And that just is made a little bit better because it's part of the PlayStation Plus collection that they offer. Mm-hmm. Which is actually getting into it and looking at the game. They give you a lot of games. I was like actually really, really impressed.
Yeah, God of War's on there. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I knew it was on there and I just forgot.
And the cool thing is, and again, I didn't cross-reference this, is actually a majority of those were not PlayStation Plus games to begin with. So you're getting, even if you redeem every game every month like we do, you're still getting a ton of games there. Well over 10 for sure. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with the collection that they gave there, and I'm probably going to be diving into a lot of those things. I want to see how God of War looks and stuff like that. And the great thing is, they've done an excellent job with backwards compatibility this year, which I'm so glad that PlayStation finally got better with it. Again, it's not ideal. We still can't play PS3 and PS2 and PS1 is gone. But at least with last gen, they've made such a clean transition, and I commend them for that. And it's going to make it so much easier that, like, when God of War Ragnarok is right around the corner, and you want to jump into the original one to run through that story, it's such an easy process. The way they kind of put the library right there, all the way to the right, it's so simple, so clean. It's again, going through it with the exception for the card mechanism, it's pretty much my favorite PlayStation UI thus far. Easily, I love the way it performs, and I just love the design of it, and I'm glad that they finally got it together with the backwards compatibility thing. I hope it's expanded over time, but at the very least, the way they handled the PS4 thing is perfect. So,
yeah, no, I completely agree, and it's also just helps wanting to play this system so much is just how fast these games are installing, downloading, because I tested out different things, and I'm like, wow, this installs very fast. Because remember, PlayStation always had, I don't know why, on I think PS3 and PS4, where it would download it, then it would copy it, and then you could play it. This one seems to jump. It just seems to jump to just copying or just downloading. I haven't downloaded a full game. My Ghost of Tsushima is also completely digital, so I'll experience it that way on my Wi-Fi. So it's fantastic to see that just how quick it is. Because when I go to that catalog, when you look at your PS Plus catalog, plus the PlayStation Collection, plus your digital purchases, and initially I was like, I want to install it all. Obviously, we know that's not possible right now, but how fast it is and how quick this UI is working with these games just makes it so much more inviting.
Absolutely. And I actually tried out the PlayStation 5 both with a wired and a wireless connection because I wanted to see how they download. The Xbox, I didn't notice any major difference in the downloading speed. Again, not as an indictment against them. I just personally didn't notice that. But with the PlayStation, I can definitely notice the download difference. My PlayStation 4 is like slow as hell. And wired, it becomes a lot better. But wired with the PS5, I mean, holy crap. Like, I had Miles, and I won't say a specific time because I don't know definitively. But, I mean, a whole game under, 40 gigs. Definitely under 15 minutes for sure. It was quick.
No, it's exciting.
Yeah, so I was really, really impressed. And I have decent internet, too, so that also helps. But, yeah, man, I just love the way that they've handled the PS4 thing. And, again, this is one of the first generations where they made it so easy to get the next-gen console and to just put the last-gen console away. I don't need to keep it out for any reason. Yeah, so the PS4 is gone.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I do have it still not hooked up, but it's underneath the other shelf. But it is nice to know where it's like, well, if I decided to do something with it, the PlayStation 4 I'm keeping. The Xbox One, I have a couple different options I may do with it. I may end up just keeping it for collecting purposes. But it's nice to know where I don't have to keep going back to them. I did screw up and not take out whatever discs in them, so I do have to hook them up to take whatever games are in there.
Okay, gotcha.
But it is nice. They're kind of just down there for history purpose now, just archived.
Oh, yeah. I'm not selling mine, but they definitely went into the office with the other boys, and I put the PlayStation 4 right next to the PlayStation 3, and I was just like, RIP, boys, you guys served well, but your time's over.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So, that's the PlayStation 5. Obviously, we're really positive about it, and on our final thoughts section, we can give you guys closer to like recommendations and stuff like that. But I guess we can move into the Series X now.
Well, did you want to discuss a little?
Oh, Miles Morales.
Miles Morales?
I am tripping. The game of the century, Miles Morales. So, Steve, you already know I love this game, and I loved Miles since 2011 when they showed him off for the first time. What are your thoughts about this game?
Wow, it is fantastic. Anyway, it is it's such a fantastic game, and this is obviously a mid step to a full sequel for Spider-Man, but it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel so cheap. I know it's a little bit shorter and stuff like that, and you can tell some little things were kind of reused, but the fact that they were able to really, really capture who Miles is, who he is, trying to become, the family issues and all the storylines. Obviously, a lot of this stuff should be familiar if you guys have seen Into the Spider-Verse or have been reading his comics since 2011. I've dabbled in and out of certain, runs of it, and they nailed it. They nailed this game. Not only performance-wise and technical-wise, obviously it runs beautiful on The PlayStation 5 looks great. You can bounce back between the the performance or the fidelity mode, and I've bounced around with both. I kind of like the performance because all those moving textures and characters I don't really suffer from too much motion sickness. Certain games do mess me up, so I've been able to mess with that. But the story, the characters are just so welcoming, and it's something we don't see so representative as much. Where I always enjoy when they really show Miles being more. Yes, he is African American, but he also does have Puerto Rican background. He's Hispanic, and this one I feel like they really hit the perfect marriage of them both. From him even just not just only speaking Spanish every once in a while, but being more in that culture when you're going through like the your mom's campaign rally and you got all the flags everywhere and the music and people dancing and they're talking about different foods and musics and stuff like that, and it's so fantastic to see that representation, especially since I've been really diving into my heritage and stuff like that. It just makes me feel so happy, and I didn't grow up in New York like Harlem, but I was in the surrounding areas, Westchester and all that kind of area, Yonkers and things like that. So it's exciting to see so much of what I do remember, seeing stuff that we grew up with, and just really be representative on top of an amazing game, on top of an awesome soundtrack and style of that is Miles. So let's hear, you can go full fanboy on Miles now.
Oh man, this game. So, and I mean, you covered a lot of the bases and stuff like this. This is one of the first games that I feel like has really gotten New York right. Or about as right, I suppose, as you get. And again, neither of us are from like Harlem. All my family's from Brooklyn, so I spent a lot of time out there. Mm-hmm. But I have been to Harlem, tons of times. And this is the first, time I've actually seen them get it right. Where you like walking around, you see the bodegas, you see all the different barbers and stuff like that. You see NPCs that actually look like New Yorkers, and it doesn't look like they just took NPCs out of South Dakota. So like. It's just a phenomenal thing, and I'm really, really impressed with it. I'm not mad about some of the price propositions. I know some people are like $50 for 8 to 10 hours. That's a lot. With $70 being the marked retail price now, $50 I suppose is the budget price now. I suppose, and I guess you're gonna still see like $40 games, I'm sure, and 30 maybe too. But yeah, $50. I think the price proposition's good for me, especially because I'm going to take advantage of getting all the collectibles and stuff like that. So I'm going to spend some time with it. I'm probably going to spend more than 10 hours with it. But I understand, price proposition is a tricky thing, but I'm very, very happy with it. And yeah, the game is just absolutely gorgeous. I too have played around with performance and fidelity mode. I haven't noticed a massive difference with it, but I do go with fidelity because I love the reflective effects on the ground. Like the ice effects is just so incredible. And I go with fidelity mode mostly because I'm coming from a base PS4, and I've never 4K gamed before. This is my first time. I never had a Pro. I never had a 1X. So I'm jumping from 1080p to 4K, and it's just blowing my mind. I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to see my high-resolution textures. I love me a frame rate. God bless them. Keep it there. But I need my nice textures. And it's just insane seeing these cinematics where, like, there's not a single flickering effect, not a single jagged edge. The motion capture is phenomenal. I haven't seen motion capture of that degree, like, in many games. I mean, I know Last of Us has really, really good mocap. God of War. A lot of the Sony first-party stuff has amazing motion capture. Same thing with Halo. But not a lot of games have that. And so just no wonky textures, no wonky expressions. And the crazy thing is when the cutscene ends and you go into the game, there's no drop in quality whatsoever. And that is the next-gen effect right there. That is the difference. And I was showing my girlfriend. Because sometimes it's a little tough. I remember... For the person who doesn't play a ton of games, showing them the difference between the PS3 and the PS4 at launch with Killzone like Shadowfall and stuff like that wasn't like the easiest thing to explain to them, like what like this real native 1080p decent steady frame rate thing actually works. Like feel the controls, look at the environments, look at some of the particle effects was a big thing when the PS4 came out. Like look at the different particles and stuff like that. And the average person who maybe just plays 2K or Call of Duty every year might not notice it that much. But I feel like the case is a little bit different this time because I showed my girlfriend. I'm like, look at the ice on the ground. Show me a game where you could see the freaking ice. Like there's a reflective, like real time. The biggest difference is run past any business, look into the window, and there is stuff in there. Yep. It's not a flat image.
It's not black darkness. It's not boarded up for texture purposes.
There's 3D rendered stuff inside the building, which gives this a level of immersion that is just absolutely insane. And again, I've stumbled across random bit. I just land on the ground sometimes and I look and there's just a coffee shop there and there's just people inside moving. And I'm like, this is insane. And again, this is not stuff that is brand new with the PS5. These things existed on in the PC space. But when us console boys be able to get our hands on it, it's just mind blowing. So yeah, Miles is phenomenal. Again, the base Spider-Man is phenomenal as well. So I'm not gonna say, oh, Miles is better than the base PS, but I think it's an excellent kind of continuation of what they did with PlayStation. I think they did an excellent job to following that up. And when you have an excellent game like Spider-Man, it's not easy to follow it up, especially if you're gonna suddenly change the protagonist with a spin-off. It's a risky thing. But I think they pulled it off really well. But I think we're kind of missing one of the best parts of Miles, which is the soundtrack. I mean, my God.
Man.
As a hip-hop fan? Bro.
So yeah, I've obviously, even before I've always known you're such a big fan of Miles. So when you get the suit that you see on the cover, which is his red and black suit, when you finally get that suit, right, when your friend gives you that pep talk about you don't have to be the second Spider-Man, you are just another Spider-Man. You're your version of Spider-Man. And that soundtrack hits, and then you finally get your red and black suit, and you're jumping and swinging, and immediately I was like, Jabril must have the biggest grin on his face.
Oh, I had chills, man.
I knew it because I had it, and I'm like, and I know you just love how much you love everything. I'm like, everything in that moment was like, I was like, this is all him. And I purposely didn't text you because I was like, we gotta talk about it tomorrow on the show for sure. Because I was like, I know this moment. It's on the same level of What's Up Danger in Into the Spider-Verse, in my opinion. It's not better, it's not worse, it's on that same level because it's so different. This is a different Miles, but it still gave that same amount of goosebump when he first jumps off. It's fantastic, man. That scene, I saved that scene. I think it's one of the first things I saved in the create whatever share button because I can't wait to show people that little maybe minute long section because it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, is it any surprise that I can relate to a half black, half Hispanic kid that loves hip hop? Not necessarily.
Yeah, that's you. Obviously, that's who you are.
I am Miles in many ways. Mm-hmm. But oh man, no, it's just phenomenal, and I'm so glad to see how much people like it. I was kind of worried. I'm like, I hope they really give this the Lost Legacy treatment, where it's like a really high quality spin-off experience, and that even though it doesn't have the same characters, people really love it, and they do a high fidelity experience, and everybody loves it. Because I was like, my nightmare scenario is like, what if this game is not that good, and everybody just starts hating on Miles as a character?
Yeah.
Because sometimes a bad iteration of a character kind of condemns that character for good. And I was worried about that, but no, I think they did this absolute justice, especially coming off of Spider-Verse, which, I mean, I'm not going to get too deep into that because that movie is flawless, but coming off of that, which is one of the best depictions of a character in animated medium period in the modern era, the fact that they were able to do a game with the same character in the same environment, essentially, find a way to work in those things, because you can use the Spider-Verse suit in there, which I do, absolutely. That spray painted spider. Come on, man. Stop.
Every time it turns nighttime, I use that suit.
Come on, man. It's perfect. But yeah, I mean, they were fighting an uphill battle with this one, and I think they just knocked it out of the park. And I mean, I guess you got to put another one on the scoreboard for these Sony first party exclusives. I mean, they're just
Insomnia. They know what they're doing.
I don't know how they're doing it, but for me, they have yet to miss for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Now they've been on an insane streak, and this is another one you can add to the thing there. And again, I know it's a little standalone, but hey, if Lost Legacy counts, so does Miles.
That's it. And
so I guess now we can move on to the second half of the show. And I told you guys it was gonna go long.
Yeah.
This Series X, the Xbox's new console. Now they have taken a very different approach this time. If Sony's PlayStation 5 is gonna be considered a revolution for the PlayStation ecosystem. A lot of people have said the Series X is an evolution. Yeah. Now, we both have the X. Neither of us got the S, even though I was initially planning to get that. I at least I'm gonna speak for myself, decided against that because I decided, I was like, you know what, let me future-proof myself, because again, the Xbox Series S would be great for now, but in a couple years when, you know, 4K textures and 120 frames per second becomes a lot more normalized, you would like a piece of hardware to take advantage of that, especially us as, you know, pretty hardcore gamers. So it's kind of hard to not get caught up in the very now. It's like, okay, who cares that much now? But yeah, in 3 years, people will probably care. So let me future-proof my collection. Let me just get a Series X. And generally speaking, I'm actually really, really happy about this. The funny thing is, I got my Series X on Thursday, came out on Tuesday. Valhalla came out at the same time. So I got a chance to like get a direct comparison of what the same game looks on 2 bits of hardware.
Okay.
And it is pretty night and day. And I'm really, really impressed with what the power that, you know, Xbox was able to extract with this. One thing, this is a beefy boy. I did not expect it to be as heavy as it was. When I did the unboxing, I lifted it, I'm like, holy crap, like this thing is super, super solid. I love the build quality on it. And that's how I like my consoles, man. I want them built to last. And this thing does not feel like it's going to break anytime soon. And I can't speak on the internals and the heat distribution. Things can go wrong in that. But in terms of like a flimsy plastic or stuff like this, this thing is durable. Like you could bump this against a wall, it might chip the wall. But yeah, no, the hardware, really, really solid build. Again, I would have vastly preferred to have this standing up so I can funnel that air upwards like a beautiful tower spout. But unfortunately, I have to have it on my side, and it has the little pegs there and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I'm really, really excited about the hardware. There's not as much to talk about here because, again, it is kind of just a box. They didn't do anything super weird. The shape is a little bit different than what they've explored before. But generally speaking, it literally is kind of just a box. The controller is almost the same. But before I get to the controller, Steve, what did you think about the hardware side of the Series X?
So this one was a little bit different because, you know, as PlayStation was keeping their lips very shut, Xbox was giving these things out like candy months ago. You know, so we've seen completely dissecting. We've seen people play. We've seen people play with dev kits where they can turn on different ray tracing and things like that. So it wasn't less glorious. And don't get me wrong, but it was more of an like. And I think you described it the best. Where one was a revolution, and one's just an evolution. This is just the next step in my Xbox, you know, gaming history. And you know, this is where a lot of my gaming stuff comes from. You know, when this trend, you know, when the full console wars came out, you know, well, Sony, Xbox, and Nintendo wise anyway, I was given an Xbox. So I've had every Xbox since, you know, whether it be very late or very early that I get it. So it was just more of that, you know. So it was a little less, you know, because I knew exactly how to use the UI, you know, to the point where, you know, I signed in using the app because I don't know my sign-ins. Okay. And I wish it was a little bit more presented. You know, the console itself, opening, unboxing it, was beautiful. The way it was there, power your dreams. I had pretty much the same reactions you did for your unboxing, where it was nice. You know, I was trying to not rip my plastic and all my stuff like that. So it's very sleek. I like how hefty it is. It's like, I described it to yesterday. I was like, well, while the PS5 is this big fancy birthday cake, the Xbox is very nice pound cake, and that's the best way I described it to this person, and that's how I've been describing it. Feel free to use that, anyone.
I like that a lot, pound cake.
Because pound cakes are delicious, but so are birthday cakes.
Dense.
And so dense and uniformed, where PlayStation has all this stuff going on. It's just sleek and nice. And, you know, I looked into the vents because I wanted to see the kind of green outline and stuff like that. Then I hooked it up, and then it was there. Now, I did get mine on launch day, magically, somehow. So I didn't get to do the Valhalla jump, because my Valhalla just came in the same day, and I played it. But I did notice small things, because I did play Odyssey on Xbox One X. So I did play it at high, I guess, you know, the highest it could at the time. And I also have it on PC, where I was given, or it came free with something on my PC. So I got to test it, and let me tell you, Valhalla right now looks better than Odyssey did on my PC at the highest resolutions I could get it on my PC. Now, I don't have this, you know, $5,000 PC, but I just don't see why, besides certain games that I like to play with mouse and keyboard, why I would want to get anything else not on my Xbox. So, between these two systems, it's like, it's a powerhouse, and I've been a big person against the Xbox's UI, saying it's very slow, very, cluttered sometimes, confusing, and we did get this update to the regular Xboxes, the ones a few weeks ago where the UI now matches what the Series X was going to be.
Yes.
But it's very quick. It's very quick, because I used to hate going to redeem, Xbox Game Gold or whatever I want to download Game Pass, and it would be in a loop forever and take forever. Luckily, all that has been situated. Games download just as I want to say probably just as quick, maybe a little bit quicker than they did on my One X, on Wi-Fi connection. So it's very exciting. I know I seem a little bit more chill about this one, but it's just because I knew what to expect with this one. Also, just the fact that we've been really just breadcrumbed all the way till launch, so I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly how to set it up. I knew exactly what to expect size wise. Weight wise did catch me off guard, but I knew what to expect. I knew exactly how to go there. The control is very nice, very similar, but I'm a big person who I play a lot of fighting games, so sometimes I really need that D-pad, and that's one thing I was always going to PlayStation for. This Xbox control, that new D-pad is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it too.
It's clicky. It's not soft. It's not squishy. When you're pushing down. When you're pushing left, and when you want to hit that sort of in between thing. It's there. So it's really nice control.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's not a whole bunch to say about the new Xbox controller, because again, it's so similar, and it's so similar to the point that your Xbox One controllers will work on the Series X too. So that's one
and
thing.
Vice versa.
Everything works with everything, and that again kind of goes hand in hand with Xbox's approach to this generation, where they're not trying to force everybody to go this next generation, but it's like, hey, if you want the highest quality experience, we have this piece of hardware for you, and it's going to be an easy transition. And that's one thing I'll give them a lot of credit for, is their ecosystem is it's so united. And again, when they talk about going like for a more phone-like approach, they're not joking. Like when I went in there, I signed into everything. You don't have to manually upload your saves to the cloud like you have to do on PlayStation, for example. It just syncs everything up really cleanly. So I went on there. The UI is exactly the same, so I knew everywhere to navigate. It had all my games that I purchased there, all the Game Pass stuff. So I went through Game Pass. I downloaded everything that has kind of like a Series X upgrade and stuff like that. EA Play has been added now too, so I'm able to play like UFC 3 and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of new games available for you at launch, depending on your familiarity with Game Pass, or if you have it or not, will kind of that'll affect how much you get new out of it. I play Game Pass quite a bit, so me walking into this generation, other than literal brand new games coming out like Valhalla, there wasn't a ton new for me to experience. But the good benefit of that is these are games that I'm familiar with, so I can really see the power differential. I never played Miles on PS4, so I don't necessarily know what the difference between the PS4 version and the PS5 version. I know the PS5 is incredibly powerful, but I didn't get that direct comparison, as opposed to Xbox, where I played the hell out of Forza. Firing that up, and again, we'll get to the game section later. Firing that up, you could directly see what the Series X is really, really capable of. And to some people, this might come off to some people as more like an anticlimactic thing, like, oh, the Series X is not that impressive, and it's like, no, don't get that twisted at all. This is an absolute powerhouse of a unit. I'm really impressed with the power, but unfortunately, until we get games like Halo and stuff like that, I don't feel like the Series X experience will be at 100% quite yet. We're kind of operating at that 75% where we can see what the hardware can do. And there's lots of fun, awesome games to play on there. There's Yakuza Like a Dragon, there's Dirt 5, there's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There's lots of things to play. But in terms of unique Series X next-gen experiences, that's not what we're getting right now. That's not really the approach that they're going for right now, but generally I'm very, very positive. I'm very glad that I got a Series X. The heat distribution on both of these units are really, really solid. To the touch, the Series X does feel a little bit warmer on the front, but it is funneling the air perfectly. You get a nice flow of air through the top, coming out of the top, so you know that it's cooling off the inside really, really well. But yeah, I'm really positive about the hardware. The controller itself feels really good. I like the finish on the back there. It feels a little bit more compact in the hand. I got the Shock Blue unit, the Sonic controller, and Steve, I know you're jealous of that.
I have one pre-ordered. I just have to get it.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I was very jealous when you sent me that photo. I was like, oh man, look how nice that is.
The only reason I sent you that picture, I was like, okay, I was like, because he's gonna get one. He's getting one, so it's fine. So it's like a half brag.
Yeah.
And I've been playing. I started playing that on the One X because again, the syncing up controllers is so easy and simple. So I started playing on the One X, and then I was able to jump to the Series X and pair that with there. Yeah, it's more compact in the hand, feels really, really great. But again, Xbox controllers have felt great for, years at this point. So This is not news or anything like that. There's not any major differences. The D-pad's phenomenal. Love it. Love how clicky it is. It's probably my second favorite D-pad now. Nintendo's always gonna have that number one spot for me personally. Mm-hmm. But they're a close second. They're doing really well. And again, when I saw it for the first time, it was like concave. It was like indented. I was like, I don't really know what that's all about. And I know the Elite controller has a version of that too.
Yeah.
Which is great for like rolling your fingers and stuff like that, especially with like fighters and stuff like that. But I was like, I don't really know what they're doing here. I'm not super familiar with that style. But going into it and using it, I'm like, oh no, this actually feels phenomenal. So I'm really, really impressed with that, and it excites me. There's a lot of different platformers on Game Pass and stuff like that, so I'm probably going to fire some stuff up like that, and makes me excited to try out some of that stuff. But if we're done with the hardware, you want to move on to the games?
Yeah.
So, what have you been playing on your Series X, and what's your experience been with them?
All right, so again, it's been a busy week, obviously, so I haven't been able to jump in as much as I wanted to. But I want to say, so Assassin's Creed Valhalla was the first game I launched on the Series X, because obviously it came in the mail together. So I want to say I'm about 5 hours into Valhalla, and it's great. And if this was an exclusive, I'd be praising way higher. This is available, obviously, on last gen and also on the PlayStation 5, so as a competitor. But the game runs so nice on the Xbox Series, so it's fantastic. I'm really loving the Valhalla. I like how more Assassin Creed it is than it was So Odyssey and Origins was the first one to really, deviate from what Assassin's Creed was. Yes. So this is the third one in that new series. I like a lot of the throwbacks I'm already getting to the original series, the way some of the missions are being done, and the way the exploration is a little bit more less just find this checkpoint and do what it is. The story seems a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fast-paced. You're not spending a lot of time as a kid walking around and putting pigs in a stable and doing a lot of these dumb fetch quests. You're pretty much exposed to all the controls really quickly, the climbing mechanics really quickly, and stuff like that. You can customize, your Eivor very early on. And, you don't get this big, long present-day sequence and stuff like that. So, the game's really fantastic so far. Again, I know I'm only scratching the surface of what it is. I've done, I think, one little mini raid and stuff like that. But obviously, this is a game I'm really liking. I'm seeing a lot of placement of previous Assassin's Creed stuff. Obviously, you have the Brotherhood very early on. They're called something else, so they're not calling themselves the Assassins yet, because this is pre-establishment and stuff like that. But there's a lot of little Easter eggs that longtime fans will know. The two assassins that you find early on, or whatever they call themselves, the hidden, they both are missing their finger because the hidden blade cuts it if it were to be there. Also, it's supposed to show your dedication to the Brotherhood and stuff like that. That gets fixed early on, not early on, but in one of the Assassin's Creed, I think Da Vinci fixes that so you don't lose your finger anymore. And the fact that that's just a small thing, cause this does take place pre-Assassin's Creed 2 timeline, and I'm like, that's such a small little thing where Eivor's like, I'm not gonna cut my finger off. Also, I'm not gonna hide this blade, and she puts it on top, or whichever one you're playing, puts it on top, and I'm like, that's just small little things where I'm seeing a lot more Assassin's Creed lore in the game. On top that, if you know it, it's an added effect and an added benefit. But if you aren't aware of it, it doesn't hurt you in any way. So that's been my experience. The only other two games I've been playing, Don't Nod's Tell Me Why, which is the not Life is Strange game, because it's not published by Square Enix. That's why I don't think it's called Life is Strange. So I started this on Xbox One X with my wife, and she likes these kind of games. She likes making the decisions. I do all the, looking through paperwork and nonsense and buying stuff in the groceries and stuff like that. So that's how we kind of co-op play that game. So I gotta give shout out to the Xbox, how easy it was to literally just install it. It's on Game Pass. So install it, I hit continue, and I didn't have to download my save. Like you said, it just picked up exactly where I was.
Yeah,
and yeah, Life is Strange and Don't Nod, these games have always been not like the biggest, graphical and stuff like that. The load times are very long on Xbox One X, for these kind of games. It's very Telltale style, where these load times sometimes just take a long time. I've noticed an incredible jump in, the load times, obviously, and a couple less jittery stuff going on, stuff like that. But that game is hard to be like the threshold of next gen. The only other game I've been playing on it yet, because I'm gonna be monstering backwards compatibility today with it, is Tetris Effect Connect. Now, we've loved Tetris Effect on PlayStation. It was exclusive for a long time. Now we have the reverse, where this is not necessarily a sequel. It's more of an enhanced version. Pretty much the big thing is that there is a multiplayer version of it. The quote-unquote campaign is the same. The style's the same. The music's the same. Just being able to play, this with someone in the room is going to be nice. Especially a fan of Tetris, where you guys can kind of chill, score, attack. There's like a weird boss mode and enemy mode where what you guys are doing attacks him. And there's a lot of little fun things to do to change it up already, because at the bases you can play just basic Tetris, you can play score attack, you can play versus where you're clearing bars, get sent to them, and vice versa. So, and that game looks just as fantastic as it did on PlayStation 4, and this will be coming to PS5 at some point. I think it's exclusive for a year or 6 months on Xbox, but it is on Game Pass, so of course, why not download this game? Especially if you have Game Pass. So those are the type of games that's all I've really had time to play on the Series X, but everything plays so great, and like it just enhances my experience. And that's what I always went into the Series X knowing, is this may not revolutionize games, but I didn't buy the Series X to revolutionize it. I did it to just enhance even my games I'm playing now, and I've noticed that. So I've really been excited. So I know you love testing out your stuff, so what have you been playing on your Xbox?
Yeah, so the main thing I've been playing is also Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Mm-hmm. I'm actually about 13 hours in, so I've been playing the hell out of this. And that's a lot for me. I'm not a binge gamer or anything like that, but you guys know I love me some Assassin's Creed. I went deep into Odyssey, so I kind of have that fresh on my mind. And I think this game strikes the best balance out of the open world era of the Assassin's Creed, universe. And in many ways, as I play this game, I'm like, it's a shame that this one wasn't Origins, because if a lot of the new or the old fans saw this balance, they maybe would have been a little bit more receptive to the open world qualities without the complete ditching of the kind of established lore. I think they do a much better job of like knowing the heritage of what Assassin's Creed meant to a lot of people and giving that some weight for the first time in quite a while. Because again, Odyssey, it taps into that very lightly, but that, again, it's more when you go into the DLC, if anything. And I'm not going to go too deep into it because Assassin's Creed goes crazy with all the Isu tribe stuff. Like it's crazy. Mm-hmm. But this game does a good job of actually putting the Isu stuff a little bit more on the back burner and actually putting that whole Brotherhood Templar dynamic way more in the forefront here. And it takes a lot of the systems, like, killing all of the cultists, and they find a way to incorporate that into the Viking world. The world is cool. It's really, really big. I'm pretty much limited to Norway and England at this point, so I haven't been able to see a good chunk of what the game actually has to even offer at this point. And it makes me wonder if I'm 13 hours in right now, and I'm still pretty concretely into England with it doesn't look like I'm going to be leaving anytime soon. So it makes me wonder, like, how long is this freaking game going to be? Because again, I ultimately ended up playing Odyssey a little under 90 hours, and I explored everything at that point. But if by 13 hours into Odyssey, I had seen a decent amount of the map. There's just a lot to do after that point. But this game, they're really kind of slow tracking you, especially with the way certain areas are not inaccessible, but things are so much high powered. You really gotta kind of watch where you're going on the map and kind of work your way up there and build the alliances and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think the game is absolutely phenomenal. I don't like the emphasis on the stamina mechanic so much. That's just a personal preference thing. I find it kind of annoying. But I don't think it's like a design flaw or anything like that. It's kind of like weapon degradation. Like, it's just a specific mechanic I don't really like that much. And I think like Neo struck a good balance with the way like you have to time things because of your stamina meter and whatever and stuff like that. This game, I just end up getting like tired all the time, and with the fact that like dodging takes so much stamina, and so does swinging, and so does your power attack. I'm constantly putting in myself in a position where I kind of have to like push back. And again, I'm a very offensive, aggressive fighter. So if I miss a couple hits, it's a wrap for me. So it's a little bit tougher. It's a lot tankier than Odyssey and Origins was, which makes sense because again, you're using a Viking and not a Spartan warrior. But no, I'm very positive about Valhalla. And again, I started playing Valhalla on the 1S and moved it to the Series X. So I got to see the difference, and it was actually really struggling to play on the 1S. You could make it through, but the load times were a lot longer. I had a lot of dropped frames and frame tearing during like cutscenes and stuff like that, and NPC conversations were loading a little wonky, and the resolution wasn't nearly as high. And and again, it is worth mentioning that Assassin's Creed Valhalla is not native 4K; it's dynamic 4K. But as someone who really values fidelity, I don't personally notice that, and I can only speak for myself. I don't notice it that much. But I absolutely noticed the jump from 1X to 1S to the Series X, and geez, man, Xbox with your naming conventions, you guys got to fix this. It's gonna confuse me.
Yeah, it's
but I absolutely noticed the fidelity difference. It's really really obvious, and I haven't on the Series X. I haven't noticed any major performance issues whatsoever. Things load fine. They load quickly. It's smooth. That no major popping or anything. Every once in a while, when you go to a high area to synchronize the part of the map, you see a little bit of popping, a little weird lighting stuff. Sometimes with fire, it gets a little jittery with the frame rate and stuff like that. But generally speaking, there's no major performance issues, and I'm really impressed with what they were able to pull off here. And this is a cross-gen game, so it makes me excited for whatever they do next with Assassin's Creed when it's concretely a Series X and a PS5 title, what that looks like. Because this is, if anything, like the Black Flag kind. It's kind of like that middle zone. I've also got a chance to try out Forza, and that runs phenomenally. Again, it looked beautiful last gen, so this just makes it even more beautiful. Again, not a single jagged texture, not a single choppy frame or bad animation. It just runs phenomenally. This is the console you should play it on. Played UFC 3, that runs fine, ran fine last gen. Not much to report there. And then I also played Gears 5 to check out the Series X upgrade, and it looks beautiful. I did not play it last gen, so I don't have that comparison or stuff like that. But at this point, since, again, there's not many Series X exclusives to actually play on it, especially there's nothing brand new other than Gears Tactics, but that's not really my thing. I'm kind of looking for anything to see what this piece of hardware can do. Later today, I'm going to try Doom Eternal. I have purchased that game, and I believe it's also on Game Pass now, actually.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass.
I really need to see how that game looks, because that game felt like a next-gen game on last-gen. So I can only imagine actually running it on the next-gen machines, how that's going to run. So I'll report back next week. But yeah, Valhalla has basically been a bulk of what I've been spending my time on the Series X with, and I'm very positive about it. And again, the Series X seems like it's gonna definitely be more of a slow burn of a console. It's gonna be something that you kind of see the totality of the view probably in a year or so, which is not necessarily the best for the console sales. But then again, everything's scarce in terms of quantity right now too. So I have no doubt that the Series X is probably sold out everywhere, just like the PS5 is. So they're probably selling really well now. We'll see how it's gonna stretch across the generation. I'm really hoping that they do well this generation, because I feel like they've made a lot of customer-friendly moves, and we've already talked about all this stuff before. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on all the Series X games.
Yeah, and solid stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna be installing Gears 5, which I did play on my 1X, so I'm gonna hopefully notice some big differences. I know they did some stuff in the story mode and stuff like that, so I'm excited to try out that. So I'll have some opinions on that next week, hopefully.
Yeah, and we're kind of in a weird position where like these upgrades, specifically in the Xbox ecosystem, is becoming a lot like PCs, a lot like phones, where it's not these hard defined definition or generations like PlayStation's going for. So that means things are gonna get a little bit more confusing in terms of fidelity. Like, what is the major power and processing differences that you're gonna see between the 1X and the Series S, for example? Like, what does that gap look like? Because obviously the 1X, I believe, dabbles with 4K, but a Series S is a 1440p machine, but it can also process things just like the Series X can. It just runs it at a lower resolution, but also can do things like a smart delivery and I forget what it's called, but when you can run multiple games at the same time.
Oh, the quick resume?
Yeah, quick resume. So it's obviously a more powerful machine, but you're going to start running into these kind of like middling consoles, like which one's more powerful, which is not. It's going to be hard for the average consumer really to understand, other than this one's newer, so you should probably get this one because it's more powerful. But yeah, I thought that was worth noticing. And also, I don't know if you noticed this, but the quick resume seems to work amazingly with every game but one. And I looked it up, and it's not just me. I can't get Valhalla to quick resume. Have you played around with this at all?
So I didn't try. I tried it the other way around, where I was in Tetris, I went into Valhalla, then I quick resumed to Tetris. I didn't do the other way around.
You see, yeah, and that works, because I did the same thing with Forza. But if you go, let's say you're in Tetris, and then you go back into Valhalla restarts every single time. It's weird. And I was like, that's strange. And then I went online, and that seems to be a lot of people's experience, whereas like quick resume's awesome. We were able to make it work, but for some reason, Valhalla restarts every time we try. So I couldn't get it to quick resume. Maybe that's something they fix in a patch or something like that. I know it's not a power thing because, again, the Series X is running tons of super powerful games, and we've seen demos of them running really powerful games all at the same time, very demanding stuff. I think it's just a Valhalla thing. They don't have it enabled or something like that. But that was really strange. I was just like, oh, that not a feature you want to drop the ball on when that's a selling point of the console. So hopefully that fixed that soon.
I'm gonna have to check that out though, because now I'm gonna be curious.
Yeah, that was just strange. I just noticed that, and I felt like it was worth mentioning. So I guess we can start moving towards the final part of the podcast and give our final thoughts on the consoles. That means if you could get your hands on one, do we have a recommendation? Do we think these consoles are worth purchase? What do we think about the pricing and stuff like that? So final thoughts, Steve. What do you think about these consoles, and what do you have to recommend?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic generation that we're seeing. We're literally at the dawn of it. We're at the beginning of this stuff, and obviously your personal references and style affects it. So if you were a person who was able to play the PS4 generation from 2013 to 2020 and you never were tempted to go to the Xbox for their exclusives, or Game Pass wasn't a thing that was inviting to you, then obviously you're gonna probably find more appeal to the PlayStation 5 because it's going to be more the same. Again, if you really want it and you're a big gamer, obviously, and if you can find it, obviously I would say jump in now to obviously have that plan ahead so you can start jumping into some of this stuff and experience the games. I do think so. I know someone who has Miles Morales on PS4, and I'm so tempted to see what it plays like on the PS4, and I know it's gonna play fantastic, but I want to see what's the real difference, because I've seen screenshots, but I want to see the big difference. So, but if I do think Miles Morales should be experienced on the PlayStation 5, but also I understand that if you just could not find a PS5 or can't afford it right now,
as most people, yeah,
which is most people, definitely go get this on PS4. You're gonna get your free upgrade and stuff like that,
no doubt.
So, and stuff like that. Now, if you want a more consumer-friendly thing, if you want to get more bang for your buck, then the two series systems obviously are there. The Series S, I don't see for like quote-unquote hardcore gamers. I'm not gonna say you're not a gamer if you got a Series S. Don't get me wrong. Our original plan was to get the Series S, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, for sure.
But Game Pass, in addition to EA Pass or EA Play, whatever they call it.
EA Play.
And the complete backwards accessibility of the two Xboxes makes sense. It definitely makes sense for people who have maybe a couple young kids. They obviously don't need a 4K $500 system. But, if you do that, plus your $15 a month, they have this huge catalog of games and stuff like that. So, my big recommendation, if you want your full-fledged arsenal, both systems are fantastic to get now. If you want one to kind of just get a more bang for your buck while things start to release more, I don't see why not get a Series S. Obviously, a Series X is so much more powerful and stuff like that. And our big thing was, future-proofing this in a year or two where we don't have to then make sacrifices and stuff like that. If you want the biggest next-gen jump, or the next gen feel. You want to feel kind of that amazingness, awe, and overwhelming of you have this fancy new hardware. The PlayStation does have a little bit of an edge because of the control, because of the style, just because of the way it looks and stuff like that. So it's hard to make my recommendation. I can co-sign either decision right now. If you, it's hard to be like if you had to get one. I'm like, oh, it's tough because one has
on the person.
Yeah, one has a crazy good experience, which is PlayStation 5, but the Xbox does have a better deal in a sense, because the only thing that is, from my knowledge, if I'm remembering, the only two games that are strict PlayStation 5 exclusives are Demon's Souls and Bugsnax, which I don't think either game is a system seller, because... And Astrobot's fantastic, but that's pre-installed on it. But, Miles
too, right? Yeah.
Miles is on both systems.
Oh yeah, just for the PlayStation 5, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying like exclusive.
Oh,
Sackboy is on both, and later down the line, we already know Horizon's going to be on both. But if you start looking down the line, I mean, Ratchet, I think they've already confirmed is only going to be PlayStation 5, and that game right there, that's a system seller. God of War, we don't know what it is. It's also not going to come out 2021. I am going to stick by that. But so it's a hard one to do.
Yeah.
It really depends on who you are. So how do you wrap up and do the recommendation and your final thought?
Yeah, well, first off, day one purchases or early adoption of consoles is not for everybody to begin with. Some people just value being there day one, hardcore gamers, whatever you want to call them. And definitely, I assume I don't have to make that recommendation to you because you probably already did it. For the more casual consumer or somebody else, I don't think you're missing a bunch quite yet. This is a solid launch lineup, but do I think it's like must-buy stuff? No, not necessarily, because again, there are last-gen equivalents for a bulk of these titles that play just fine. It's the Watch Dogs effect, if anything. It's not a major thing. But I would say if I have to recommend one, first off, these consoles are not really accessible to anyone. So if you don't have them just now and you don't have a pre-order in, it might be shot for you for 2020, 2021. You might be able to get it. You might be able to get one on Black Friday, but it might be shot for you. But if you're kind of on the fence, like I don't know which one to go with, I think either way you're getting a really, really solid experience. I think both consoles have a lot to offer. The reality of it is a vast majority of the experiences you can have on the Series X, you can also have on the PlayStation 5. But I can't necessarily say that in the other direction. A lot of the PlayStation 5 experiences are very much locked to the PlayStation 5. So I think as of right now at launch, the PlayStation 5 probably edges it out a little bit for me. If you're already in the Xbox ecosystem, I don't think it hurts to get the Series X. But if you ideal situation, if you don't want to kill your bank account, is obviously getting the PlayStation 5 and the Series S. That's ideal situation. If you and the fact that you don't want to kill your bank account. Obviously, if you can get both PS5 and Series X, that's great. But I think a good move is having the Series S as a companion console. So when like the Gears Tactics, the Halo Infinites, all those type of games come out, you'll be able to easily have access to them. And same thing with Game Pass and stuff like that. And then be able to also play the PlayStation 5 exclusives. But if you only can choose one, and it's at launch, it's right now, make or break, I have to choose one, I'm probably going to have to edge out probably with the PS5, just because again, I don't think as of right now you're missing anything with the Series X, unfortunately, because again, Halo missed, and Halo is a big one. If they were able to have Halo Infinite at launch, I think that changes this conversation completely, because I think now you have that one-to-one comparison of next-gen title versus next-gen title, Halo Infinite versus Miles, and that's a different thing. But the problem is right now, it on the Series X, it's either just Series X versions or timed exclusives like Yakuza Like a Dragon is gonna be on PlayStation. It's just first on Xbox right now. So I think either way you're not missing too much. But if you had to choose one, maybe go with the PlayStation 5, because I think as of right now you'll get the totality of the experience on that single console as opposed to the Series X, which I think you'll be missing Demon Souls, Miles, Sackboy. You'll be missing quite a bit, to be honest with you, unfortunately. But again, both consoles run games incredibly well. There's no major differential in terms of power or anything like that. But again, I think there's a solid argument to be made against early adoption in general. I think there's nothing wrong with holding out till probably next year. I think you'd probably be better off next year. If anything, supply will be a lot less scarce. You'll have a lot more, access to different supplies and stuff like that. And then there'll just be more to play on them too, because there's plenty to play on it right now. But again, are there these revolutionary like next gen exclusives like holy crap, you'd never be able to do this on last gen? There's not a ton of them. I think Miles looks phenomenal, but generally speaking, it runs on PS4, and I think that's kind of a bulk of the experience with all of these. We haven't really gotten to see definitive PS5 and Series X exclusives just yet, and we're probably not going to get that until late 2021, early 2022 at best. So yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on it. Is I'm very, very positive about this generation. I think both devices are absolutely phenomenal. I think neither of them really dropped the ball this time. Again, the only sad thing is that I feel like Series X's approach is just fundamentally different. And so optically it looks like, oh, the Series X has no games, which is not really the case. It's just they're taking a different approach, and they're allowing people to adopt when they want to. Now, you can be very cynical about that and be like, well, they're only saying that because they can't get exclusives. And that's an entirely different subject that we've covered before. But I would say, generally speaking, now, you're good either direction. I recommend both, but if you had to choose one, maybe look into the PS5. And if you want to save money, PS5 digital, $400, right in the middle of the Series X and S prices.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you already have it was very actually kind of a hard decision for me because I have One X.
Yeah.
So it was like, oof, do I really need this? And again, I decided to go obviously to get it. But if you already have a One X and you're not like drooling at the mouth just to play everything at a slightly better rate, yeah, the PS5 is going to be where you want to be right now.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this and you're a big Xbox fan and you're mad at me and you're like saying, hey, he's telling people that they don't have to upgrade to the next gen. I'm not saying that. Phil Spencer said that. So look up his interviews. They're the ones who are making it clear, hey, upgrade when you want to, whenever you want to. And there's pros and cons to that. And that's just the reality of things. But again, you can't get that mad at me because both of us have Series X's. We both love Xbox. And so ultimately, we spoke with our wallet, so you can't call us fanboys because we got both. And newsflash, I've played more of the Series X than I have the PlayStation 5. Ooh, I'm in trouble. But yeah, if you just look at the time,
for me, it was a little reverse, obviously, just because the way it landed. Though I was super busy at my job, unfortunately. So by the time I got to get home, I wanted to play it. But I did play the first 2 days. Thankfully, that I did get my Xbox on launch day. I did play that afternoon and the day after.
Yeah, fanboys don't spend, $500 in an ecosystem they don't like, so. And actually more, because I bought a friggin' $70 Sonic controller, so. It's a Sonic controller, I don't care what they say.
It is.
I wonder if, the Sonic Twitter, I hope he says something about that. That's definitely a Sonic controller. It's just the only difference is Sega's getting no kickback.
They switched, though, so it's not the same guy doing the Sonic Twitter.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's lame.
So it's not. I gotta see. I haven't seen the wars yet, like Sonic yelling at Wendy's and all these people yet. So we gotta see how they interpret that.
Well, that was all I was about to say. I mean, somebody owes Sonic a check because Wendy's and all these different companies and Arby's that are stealing, they're stealing Sonic swag. He was the first on that. Talking reckless on social media as a established IP. Nobody was doing that before Sonic.
No, for
sure. And the fake Kazurai. That one too.
Oh yeah, that one's funny too.
But there we go, our next gen show that we've been, anticipating for the longest now, and we made decent time, hour, a little over an hour and a half. Might be our longest show, not sure. We may have hit 140 before, but next week we'll have a lot more information for you guys because again, the more time we get with these pieces of hardware, the more times that we play different games, the more we'll have to say about it. Because again, there's only so much you can say about the PlayStation 5 and Series X with the limited experience we have with the games we play. But there's lots of games I'm probably going to get to at some point, like Sackboy and Yakuza, Watch Dogs Legion, Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War. There's going to be a ton of games that in the next few weeks we're going to be playing. And then once we get into December, we'll have Cyberpunk as well. And also, don't forget Nintendo, because Zelda's in 5 days or something like that.
Yes, Zelda's this week. I don't think I'll be able to grab it just because I've opted to get little accessories for my PlayStation instead. But, we'll see.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try my hardest, guys, to get that. But it's kind of an uphill battle of spending, $60 extra on this game, and on top of that, finding the time to pry myself off the next gen consoles to play a Zelda beat 'em up. Which, again, no offense, I love it. Again, it looks amazing. I just don't know if it's the right timing for me.
Part of me is like, I would rather get Sackboy's Big Adventure right now on PlayStation 5 than play Dynasty Warriors or Zelda. So
they're lucky there's lore in there. That's the one thing. If this was just a strict Hyrule Warriors 2 with not as much literal Breath of the Wild lore, I probably wouldn't get it in general. But I'm seeing all these characters alive and next to each other, and I'm like, oh, this is what I wanted.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I go back and forth because I do get excited when I think Impa's not this old lady anymore.
Impa's young, and the gameplay's solid, and the champions are all alive.
They're all alive and not ghosts. It's fantastic times.
But yeah, so that was the NeoVintage podcast. I'm Jabrel, and I am with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.